Welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new r/malicious compliance stories, shall we? The first story is called Overwhelming Compliance. Back in the 90s, I was a junior reporter on a northern UK provincial paper. Newspaper companies were and still are legendary cheapskates. They will find the most unbelievable ways to try to save even small amounts of money. Bearing in mind this is long before the days of email, we relied on our phones to speak to anyone we needed to contact. These were mostly local calls, but there were quite a lot of agencies we might need to ask for responses to our stories that would be out of our area. For reasons lost to the mists of time, I needed to ring a press office that was somewhere down south. I tried to make the call, but I got a dead tone. I tried again. The same. I borrowed a colleague's phone just in case mine wasn't working. I still couldn't get through. So I rang our receptionist, Jane, a terribly refined Scot, but with the soul of a rebel. She loved the editorial department. Our news editor used to sneak her a glass of wine from whatever boozer he was in when she rang around trying to find him when the editor was on the rampage looking for him. I said to her, "Jane, I'm trying to ring this press office and I can't get through. Is there something up with the phones?" "Where is that office?" "Bristol. Why?" "That explains it. You can't ring long distance." "Sorry, what? I can't ring long distance? Why not? Didn't anyone tell your department?" "The management decided it, and the phones have been limited from today to save money on the phone bill. You have to ring through to reception to ask for a long distance number, and I have to dial it for you." "Really? That sounds like a really stupid idea." "I know, but it's out of my hands." I turned to our news editor and told him. He laughed and then realized I wasn't joking. There ensued a short period of the reporters ringing numbers for places at varying distances from our office. Where we worked out, there was about a 10-mile radius before we had to ask reception to be connected. Our news editor wasn't having this. He was a malicious compliance. He rang Jane and profusely apologized for what we were about to do to her. And then he commanded us to ask to be put through to any number, anywhere in the country for the rest of the morning. We spent the next 2 hours completely swamping our poor solo receptionist with requests to be put through to long distance numbers. I made the call to the press office that I needed to make in the first place, but I also had a lovely chat with my aunt in Manchester and my sister in Scotland. There were about 20 of us in total, non-stop asking for long distance calls to be put through, meaning Jane could barely answer another call or deal with visitors until we broke for lunch. Needless to say, we came in the next day to find our right to make long distance calls was reinstated. The next story is called The Owner's Best Friend. I've been training people for a long time and have both worked in and been trained rigorously in a specific training style. By rigorous, I mean 2-week courses held overseas at a huge cost to my at the time employer. Skip forward a couple of years and I'm in a new job with a new employer that employs around 35 people. This new employer acquired a big European contract. The responsibility for carrying out the contract is given to a new manager who is young, inexperienced and arrogant, but also besties with the company owner and can do no wrong. This manager gets to pick a team, and I am literally the only employee in the company who has been trained for this type of work, and the manager knows this. But I am not selected. I asked why, but I'm brushed off. Clearly the manager wants all the credit and believes that it won't be shared if I am part of the team. So I go to the manager's manager, who is the director, and second to the owner. I am told to keep my mouth shut and follow what the manager says. The director's hands are clearly tied on this matter. Cue malicious compliance. I am not asked for advice, and I offer none. The training contract materials are produced without my specialist input. I am asked to train people using the manager's choice of materials. The material is ridiculous, grossly inappropriate, and completely unfit for the purpose. After the training course had finished, I left the company, feeling that my skills, knowledge, and training were undervalued. A few weeks later, I learned that due to the manager's incompetence, the company lost the contract, although the manager continued working there due to being besties with the owner. They dropped to only 12 employees before the start of 2020, and now they are down to 5. The third story is called Not Smart Enough for a Raise. A few years ago, I worked for a furniture store in the back store. My job consisted of unloading and loading trucks, assembling furniture and placing it on the main floor of the store. After around 6 months there, my supervisor announced that he resigned, meaning his post was up for grabs. I had all the technical requirements, so I applied. But they gave the job to another one of my colleagues who had more experience, which was totally reasonable. After maybe 1 year, my then supervisor just stopped coming into work for no reason. He just decided he had enough and he just left, no 2 weeks notice or anything. So while the director tried to get him, I took over the role of supervisor. I was the one with the most experience. This means that combined with my regular work, I was now the one telling people what to do, when, doing the schedule and all the paperwork for the shipment. 3 weeks later, my colleague was officially fired by my director. In those 3 weeks, I kept doing the job of supervisor and doing it pretty well. So I thought that the promotion would come to me, but my director did nothing. I went to see him, explained what I had been doing and asked if I get the promotion, to which he replied that I was not qualified nor smart enough to do this job. After some thinking, I just decided that if I was not smart enough to do the job, then I shouldn't do it. So I went back to doing my regular job and I also started looking for something else. 5 days after I stopped filling in, my director came to see me in the back store. He asked why the heck the job isn't being done. After all, without me organizing it, nothing was getting out of the store to be delivered to the client. I just reminded him of our previous meeting and he told me, "Yeah, I remember that. What I meant is you're not qualified to get the pay bonus for the job. You still have to do the job, you idiot." I have to admit, I still wonder how he thought that would work. Still a bit dumbfounded, I just told him that if I wasn't going to get paid for it, I certainly won't do the job. And that considering we were already short-staffed with my old supervisor gone, he should be a bit more polite. Apparently, this was an unreasonable request, a total lack of respect to him and worthy of firing me. Yep, still don't get how that would fix anything, but hey, he's the boss. I packed everything and left, knowing that the back store needed 5 people to operate and was now down to 3 with the most experienced worker having a total of 4 months. It only took my boss 1 day to call me back and telling me maybe he went overboard and that perhaps we could arrange something for the promotion. To which I replied that I would not be coming back since I had a few interviews lined up. I hung up while he was still cussing at me. After a few months at my new job, I had some surprising news. The store had closed down after 2 other backstore employees resigned. I gotta admit that it felt good to see my old boss finally get what he deserved. The last story is called No Pay, No Work. A few years ago, I took a job in a small nursing home. I was always early and clocked in when I got there, so I had no idea that if I clocked in 1 minute late, they wouldn't pay me for the next 14 minutes of my work. I would often work through my breaks as there was never enough staff to cover the shifts and I didn't want the residents to suffer. One day I gave a friend a lift into work as usual and she told me about the lack of pay if you were even 1 minute late, but if you arrived early they would ask you to start straight away and not pay you. I was shocked. Well, the day came that I was late. 1 minute late only, and I knew that I wasn't going to get paid for the next 14 minutes. So rather than start work, I went straight to the staff room and put the kettle on. The supervisor came to find me less than 5 minutes later and demanded that I get to work. I told her that if she wasn't going to pay me, I wasn't going to work. She was furious. I don't think any care workers had ever answered her back. I waited until the 14 minutes had elapsed and got back to work. Later that day, the manager asked me to see her in her office as the supervisor had complained about my rudeness. I stood my ground, even though I was actually really worried that I was going to be fired. I said, "I'm always early. I start work when I get here, knowing you aren't paying me, and I have never minded until I was told that you dock our pay if we are 1 minute late. So there's no way that I am working if you refuse to pay me, and I will no longer start work early if the supervisors think it's okay to be rude to me." I didn't stay there very long after that. The managers were fiddling the staff on their wages, and I found a different job. I know the story hasn't got a grand finale or a wow ending, unfortunately, but that's real life and not the fantasy I would like. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.